Welcome to Northwood, everybody. I'm grateful to be on the panel and also to share my expertise over the years that we have worked for the Forestry Development Authority, especially in the area of natural resource management, sustainable forest management. So, looking at governance issues, I think FDA has come a very far way when it comes to sustainable forest management, because when the FDA first started with under the Bureau of Forest Conservation at the Ministry of Agriculture, our concentration was based on two pillars, and that was about sustainable forest management and the protection of wildlife. Later on, we grew up to get mature in 1976, where we stood alone and giving all our mandate now to play more roles. And at that time now we have put us at the cap of bringing the practice of commercial forestry, at the same time looking at land use planning and sustainable wildlife conservation and management. But under the new dispensation, under the National Forestry Reform Law of 2006, we have now taken three approaches, and we look at the 3 C's. That was commercial forestry, or that is commercial forestry, conservation forestry, then we also have community forestry. But with the new dispensation, looking at what is being practiced globally and signing to a lot of multilateral environmental agreement, we are also now taking on the 4th C, which is the carbon aspect, looking at REDD+. And I think we are driving all of them. If you look at them, if you practice sustainable conservation, it takes into consideration all of these aspects. So what are our goals for doing all of this? We are about protecting the environment and at the same time conserving our natural resources. And we are also about promoting economic prosperity, trying to create means for people to earn some living and some income. And we are also about looking at the social and trying to address the social well-being of people, whether it be in livelihood or whatsoever. Then we are also looking at the goal of land use planning and sustainable land tenure issues. Then lastly is about knowledge, management of knowledge and information within the area. And that will also support the information when it comes to research gathering. So our strength has been based on the various goals, and that it has been based on the various approaches for sustainable forest management. So we have developed a lot of regulations, a lot of policy documents. We have come up with a lot of strategies, and we have formed a lot of local governance structure in the forestry sector as well as national government structures. And we have been able to do need assessment of existing structures that already were there. And we also got to know what their strengths were, what were their weaknesses, what were their opportunities, and what seemed to be threatening them, and how we can make progress for them to better operate. And with that, we are always open room for more criticism positively to improve the forestry sector. And we have been able to strengthen also institutional and sectorial coordination and collaboration among the various national institutions, regional institutions, and global institutions. And we are beginning to also promote what they call afforestation and reforestation as a way of trying to restore our degraded land where forests once existed, and where there were no forests, the idea of afforestation also was introduced. So as we look, the forestry is becoming too interactive and becoming integrated, because we are now working, because like for now, as we say to FDA, we have even developed a bigger project that we're implementing now, that has taken into consideration several institutions working on one platform. and which is the Labrador Forest Sector Project, which has the Ministry of Mines and Energy, they have the Ministry of Agriculture, they have the Forestry Development Authority, the Environmental Protection Agency, and LAGIS. And we have been going through all of this. And through that, we have been able to even come up with our own national forest definition to be able to give rise to doing our re-inventory of our forest sector within Liberia. So we did a national forest inventory, of which was done from 2018 to 2019. So the report is up. Many people don't know about it. At first, we were looking at our forest and percentage to be about 4.5%. But later on, let me say 4.5 to be the annual growth rate of the forest. But now it's gone to 6.6. So if you look at the percentage of the our portion of the upper Guinea forest now is gone to 69%. So that's the latest information. So we are making some strides and making some improvement. So I think with all of us working together and taking collective action, we can do better when it comes to sustainable forest management. And we have also been able to bring in a new dimension, what they call the transboundary and forest management, where we have been able to work with our neighboring countries to sign some legal framework and transboundary collaboration with Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Africa is almost at the board because we just reviewed the transboundary agreement and we're going to be signing them soon, which are all bilateral agreements meant to work together for us to sustain our wildlife, manage our forests, at the same time manage our water, and we have had a lot of integrated water mutual platform initiative taken together to be able to move the sector. So I think with our collective action, we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul. With all this management framework, the research that's happening, integrated, intersectorial collaboration happening between the Forestry Development Authority and most of the other line ministries and agencies, there is an underpinning fact that Liberia is still a forested nation. And as a forested nation, you pointed out that there is a transition or an addition to one of our forest management systems, and that is the introduction of the carbon climate change to respond to climate change. Now, from a carbon economy, a low carbon economy perspective, as we try as a country, as my esteemed professor stated, we hold one of the lungs of the earth. As we try to get on a healthy pathway as a country, what is the role carbon economy would play in Liberia? What do you think the opportunities are? And what do you think are our responsibilities? This question is addressed to you, Madam. So she particularly.
Thank you, Roman, and good afternoon to all. I think it's really important that we're here today having this discussion because I think it gives us an opportunity to look back at what progress, the commitments that we made, and also the efforts that we have made in the years on trying to get a healthy planet for the prosperity of all. I think it's important that even in 1972, there was this interdependency on the preserving of the environment and economic development and the role that the private sector was supposed to play. And I think very early on, we could see the beginning of this discussion, the discussion of sustainability. How do we keep people and the planet at the center of development? So fast forward to where we are now. The issue of climate change and global warming is not a new issue. It's an issue that we just over the decades left on the back burner and now it's catching up to us. So why now and why the urgency? First, we know that COVID was almost a wake-up call for all of us. For 5 months, the whole world stopped and tried to understand what was happening in the pandemic. I think that the private sector is a key contributor I was asking the organizers of this event that, in Liberia we have concessionaires and we have private sector partners, and it's unfortunate not to really see them in the room because they have a huge role to play in this discussion that we're having. We cannot talk about development in the absence of the private sector and the responsibility. So I would just, if you can just indulge me to give you a story of a practical example that I faced when I was working in the private sector, specifically in the agriculture sector. And I'm happy that the two superintendents of Cape Town and Bonny are here because they were familiar with the company Sam Darby that was operating in both of their counties. So from 2010 to 2013, Sam Darby had been engaging with one of the communities in Cape Town called Zodwa. And it was 3 communities that basically came together to give the company 5,000 hectares of land to develop into oil palm. They have been negotiating with the communities, going back and forth, and they were very close to signing a memorandum of agreement that spelled out the social benefits that the communities were supposed to receive. So unfortunately, in 2014, Ebola hit and the company halted all of their operations. And that same year, the company had signed on to a no deforestation manifesto. So that meant that they had to do some carbon stock study before they could develop any new area. When that study was done, they realized that the 5,000 hectares of land that the communities had given to them, they could no longer develop that area because it was a high carbon stock area, high conservation value area. And so the communities became very agitated. They were very upset. I remember the chairman of the Zodwa Land Management Committee at the time was saying how he was so disappointed that the community had given land to the company and now the company couldn't develop the land. And so all the hopes of the communities were basically abandoned. I had multiple meetings with him to explain to him that, there's really nothing that the company can do, but because the land belonged to the communities, it was the responsibility of the community, along with the government, to try to see what the solutions would be. I remember one day he called me and he was like, Atoka, I think I found a solution to the high carbon stock situation. If we, the community, cut down this whole forest, or we burn down this whole bush, then we can invite the company to come and develop, and nobody will say anything. We know that the company is a member of the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, but because our land, we can do anything we want. And I was explaining to him, Mr. Chairman, even if we were to do this, the company wouldn't come. And so he continued to be upset. He went to the government officials, FDA had gotten involved. And it continued to be an issue. So months after that, we started seeing huge charcoal trucks come out of the Zodwa forest. We kept seeing it for weeks on end. And I remember calling the chairleader and asking her, chairleader, what's really going on in the community? And she was very blunt with me, and she said, listen, you all said we can't cut down the forest, but because we need to feed our children and send our children to school, we have to do what we have to do. And I think for me, that was a wake-up call. I think for me, it shifted my perspective that when we talk about development, we're not just talking in terms of policies, that for these communities, development really meant hope. It meant schools, it meant hospitals, it meant road network, it meant jobs, and it meant businesses. So if Sam Darby couldn't come in to do that for them, what were the other opportunities for economic benefit that they could gain from this standing forest? So we looked around, and fortunately for Sam Darby at the time, we had a partner in the Landscape Conservation International that really came in and basically signed a conservation agreement with those communities that they would protect the forest and in exchange for livelihood through the GGP project. So that project was done. So before I close, I would just like to make a few recommendations from this example that I gave and from my experience. The first thing is, I think that sustainability is a challenging road, specifically for the private sector, because it's requiring them to have a behavioral change business. So to my private sector partners, I want to recommend that the old way of doing business cannot work today. It doesn't serve your bottom line, nor your image or your future. I think it's important that the private sector try to be open and transparent and seek support through partnership, with the example that I said with Conservation International and Sam Darby. I also think that it's important that the private sector seek innovation in developing new business model for sustainable finance, payment for ecosystem services, carbon finance, because it's only through these new business models that we're really going to see economic development for these communities that we're working in. For the government, I would like to suggest that it's important that we quantify the value of our natural resources and that we include nature in our own development agenda. So institutions again like CI have been working on the natural capital accounting, and I think it's important that we consider that. I think it's also important that the government develops new policies to govern the sectors of carbon finance. We know that carbon finance is a new sector for all of us, but it's important that the government sets these policies and prepares itself so that when it's sitting at the table with the private sector and with the communities, they understand the technicalities and the communities and the government is not at a disadvantage. I think lastly, if I can make a recommendation to the communities, obviously we know that the communities remain at the center of all of this, that nothing moves and changes without them, that they are the owners and the custodians of these resources. I think it's important that they know the value of their assets, meaning the meets and the bounds, because in reality you cannot monitor and manage what you have not measured. I think it's also important that our communities define their expectation. What does development mean to them? I think it's important also that the communities speak with one voice, that they work together and they trust each other. I think it's important that they also identify their shortcomings. We're here talking about carbon finance, and when it trickles down to the communities, they don't really understand the economic value of carbon. So I think that it's important that we build their capacity and we build their knowledge. And I think lastly, it's important that the communities manage their expectation, because in reality, sustainable development doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of partners to be at the table, working together for a collective vision. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toshi. This is something that, excuse me in the back there. Thank you so much, Toshi. We've worked extensively on this. We've given birth to rare initiatives in Liberia. This is just a complement of the existing forest initiatives that's in the landscapes and on the ground. These are practical examples of how it can happen, when it can happen, and who all can be the partners moving forward. If forest governance and forest management should happen, we talk about policies, so she talk about policy too as well. For carbon, governing production, governing land use, governing forest management, women and young people are central to the realization of that particular concept. For forest management and all of these things to happen, it has to be pragmatic, it has to be practical. At this point in time, I would like to turn to Madam Watson, who will articulate this particular issue. If we must pursue a healthy planet, what are the opportunities? What is our responsibility, for us to be able to demonstrate and show that Liberia is still a beacon and moving forward, championing the rights and the roles of women. And then that will be closely followed by my dear brother, who will articulate the youth role and responsibility in all of this. Is that fair enough? Can we go ahead? I'd like to write the place quiet because we're talking let's make progress.
Everybody tired and I want the place quiet. But thank you very much. Like he said, my name is Augusta Waxy, and I'm honored and happy to be here today to talk about forest issue, to talk about environmental issue, especially after 49 years, almost 50 years of the Convention on the Environment. So the issue of forest, women have played role in managing the forest, critical role, very critical role. They have used the forest for survivability. They have gone to the forest to catch firewood. They work hours to get water. So those women know how to manage the forest because the forest, majority of them see the forest as the only source of livelihood. Now, in managing the forest or getting more female women in the management of forest resources, there are a lot of things we should take into consideration. That goes to the responsibility sharing. So we have people who make the laws. We have people who are there interpreting the laws. Those people who are interpreting the laws should be able to go to those who are mostly affected from some of these forest activities. Now we also have people who are enforcing the law. And in that light, law enforcement officer should enforce our laws without being selective or biased. So I'm saying that it should not be because I'm a woman or I'm a young woman and the next person is a man, so if a man violate our forest related law and say, oh, the man did it because he wanted to feed his family. No, it shouldn't be that way. So the women are the major factors in forest management. Yes, the men are there, but women depend on the forest. They work 2 hours to get water. They work 3 hours sometimes to get firewood, just to cook for all of us, just to cook for women, just to cook for men, just to cook for their children. So I see them as a driver to forest management. They are more critical and they have important roles to play, and you understand the practical aspect of managing the forest as compared to all of us. So in getting more women to manage the forest, I would like to say as a young person and as a female, I will hope that next time a conversation or a very big occasion like this, bring people who didn't have the opportunity to sit in classroom like me, but at least bring people who have the practical experiences because they were born in the forest, they were bred up in the forest, they use the forest for just everything they need. And those people are people who do not only see the forest as a means to fight climate change, but those people see the forest as their only source of income. So without the forest, they feel that there's nothing more they can benefit from. So to our leaders, it's now time that we all bring women to the table, and we shouldn't make our selection because the concept of a particular project or a program calls for women participation. And this is why we see around most often, because the concept calls for women or youth participation, people will just go call one woman from anywhere. Oh, can you come to attend this program because the person is their friend? But guess what? Those women who are in the communities, those women are the most affected people. Those women are the most people who understand forest management because they have managed this forest from generation to generation. Imagine we'll be celebrating 50 years since the conference on environment. I want to inform my parents, but I didn't go that far. I have very young parents. No, I have very young parents. My father is married 50 years, yes. So imagine that in very, very long time, those people have managed to, those people have been able to manage the forest. So we're sharing the youth aspect. So let's think about it. So one day I went to one program, and someone asked, why is it that we don't see a lot of young women like you involved in the environmental sector? And I said, the reason why most young women go to the business sector is because the sector is attractive. And he laughed and said, why? I said, because the sector is sexy. And it might sound funny, but come to think about it. If the sector is sexy, you have to make the sector attractive. Most often when we see agriculture, environmental or forestry, programs or reports. You will see one picture on the report, and or you will see one maybe who is struggling picture on the report. But come to think about it, like that, it appears to young people that this agricultural issues is mostly for older people, and that's why they are mostly being flagged out. But see, if you can take a young woman like this picture and put it on one agricultural report, it means that, okay, everyone is involved, and this is something that all of us can do. Okay? So it's now time to move forward. And in moving forward, we should not just move forward, we should think of moving forward in different ways. We should be thinking of changing our approach, how we handle environmental issues. So, in that case, it's not time for us to go to the hard-to-reach communities. It's not time to get the input from people who are being affected most. And I really admire the organizer. Going from one community to another. Yesterday, I saw them with the students. Like after a good, I'm like, yes, at least. And, it's not you can't take only us people around the table. You'll not get other views from other places. So it's a good thing that at least they are now moving forward. So our environmental leaders, it's time to environmental slave, where there are issues of concern, you should be able to reach that fast. You should be able to respond to those issues, and it should not be because this issue is not affecting your community or this issue is not political, so people are not running there in the time frame. This is time for us to change our approach. Think about whether you want to be in the interest of people you serve or the people you work for, or you just want the recognition. Yes, and the big, I have this kind of big title. It's now time for us to change our approach. To all of us in the room here, we have had a series of meetings, workshops, programs, conventions, and it was just interesting to know that majority of these events have similar outcome. So we come here, we spend 2-3 days, we just go with similar outcome, we just go with similar things that we have talked about 25 or 30 years ago. So it's now time for us to change our approach. Now, if we want to achieve forest management, this issue is very critical. So come to think about it, there are a few questions I want us to ask ourselves. We all know our natural resources are being depleted. It's not a secret. Our forest is not being managed. It's not a secret. It's something that all of us in the room know about. But here's the questions I want us to ask ourselves. After many years, after all of the meetings, after all of the programs, so aside from attending meetings and programs, what else can we do? What else can we do? Aside from writing the words on papers, policy in the form of policy and laws, we have all of the laws, we have all of the good policy on paper. What else can we do as a country? So aside from signing international agreements, treaties, what else can we do as a country? Aside from the fact that we go around to environmental meetings and conventions and we mention and write phrases like climate emergency, environmental crisis, what else can we do to show to people that indeed there is climate emergency and there is environmental crisis? What else can we do to show to people that we are responding to them? As a young woman today, I want you to carry these questions, answer them to yourself. The environmental issue that is issue that concerns all of us. It's not about being in position, or it's not about being a male, it's not about being a female. So aside from worrying and writing climate policy, what else can we do as young persons? So as we leave from here today, I want to encourage all of us to change our approach on the way we handle environmental issues, on how we respond to forestry and environmental related issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll go straight to you to compliment you.
Thank you very much. My name is Chadi Stephen Kinney, and I represent the African Youth Fair Review Committee. So Regarding youth representation, I know we are all exhausted, but I would like to tell you that youth are the most involved in actions to tackle climate change world over. They also have innovative ideas innovative ideas and initiatives to adopt to and mitigate climate change. However, youth lacks resources and financial capacity, which then limits their action. So I would like to recommend this. It is essential to increase support to youth-led climate change actions, advocacy initiatives, and interventions to realize tangible results. Legislative engagement through advocacy and policy influences, awareness raising through community engagement. It is important that we raise awareness because the issues about climate change, it is not just about the ministers or policy makers. It is about people who are down there who have been affected. You know, for example, go to West Point, visit the community. How many people are aware about climate change? Recently, I was in Guinea and we had a meeting with some of the community dwellers. It was starting to hear that a lady came out to say that the war is about to end because the issue about climate change is all about ending war. So, people keep out to say, oh, no, this is about scientific issues, this is about environmental pollution, and so many factors came about. So it is important that we go out there, give out the message, reach out to community dwellers, reach out to even children. For example, my daughter, you give her that, she would never drop it on the ground, she would take it to the trash can. So once we give out the message to the children, they will grow up with the message and will know exactly what to do. Thank you.
Education for children, integration of youth. What does this mean in practical terms for community in the livelihood? Mr. Makoga.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm Michael F. Gabo, Executive Director, Society for the Conservation of Nature and Livelihood. As the name depicts, SNL have been around for a little while, over 34 years. So don't ask me, I have not been Executive Director for 34 years. But if you check the history of SNL, we are small in number in Monrovia and big in number in the rural areas. And this comes to the fact that we cannot succeed if we all come here. Yes, our mothers, our fathers took their children, send them to school, some learn forestry, conservation, environment, and they all decide to stay in Monrovia. Who go back there to speak for them? How can they improve their livelihood? All of the agricultural techniques you have learned from selling the same data ball down there, they did it the old way. Doing rice farm, the old way, sent you to school. You have learned all, but you are not going back. How can they improve it? So at this point, for the livelihood to be improved, yes, we have to go back. Share with them the techniques. How can you do it better? The way you did it yesterday is not the same today, but you can do it like this, and all of this counts. I'm saying this to say SCNL is a grassroots organization, the lead national biodiversity conservation organization. But if we follow our work now, we are more in biodiversity conservation and leading on livelihood enhancement. Go around the 40 or 43 communities in around the Gola Forest National Park. We come to Monrovia, we seek funding from government, from the EU, from USAID, but you won't see much of us in Monrovia. But I want you to hit the New York area, and then you will think the government is also trying to take a new picture. Because we are with the people, planting the rice in the lowland, harvesting it, bringing it to town, with them doing beekeeping, and then finding people with value addition, people that will go there to buy it from them, the same one that they could sell it in the supermarket, and it is in the supermarket, and we see that blood pure honey in supermarkets today. Most of it also comes from the rural areas, and these are people that we took from there, work with them so that they can improve on. We ask people to go there and buy from them the same cost that could be bought in Monrovia. This encourages people to remain there, do it the best way. And it's the same with rice. It's the same. Now we work with our partner from Cambridge. They are coming in, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, training people how to produce chocolates. And for this chocolate to be produced, it has to start from the cocoa bean. Where will the cocoa bean be produced? Educated. So we do farmer field schools with the people in the rural areas. These are all to improve the livelihood of the people. If we do this from that grassroots, then we'll come to the point where the professor was speaking today. Those days, all of these people, we came to 41% improvement in our economy from agriculture. Once that is happening, the people there will feel proud because people will buy their cocoa at a value addition cost, they will buy their rice, they themselves will sell themselves, and we can do it better. Even our mother was speaking today. Not one who lost in Liberia. Liberia has reached somewhere too. So can we do it better? Look at the different type of communal farms. One county take on a specific one. And this is what we are practicing on the ground. We are doing it with a county or 2, 3 counties, but we're doing it with regions. This region produces this region produces, so that we all can be interrelated and depending on one another, buy from one another, improve the economy, and then we all can see stability outcome. So to have this livelihood, we have to all move on. Even people that we employ in the forest sector, we take people from the rural communities. We have about 64 persons employed, funding from USAID, from FAO, from the LPA, Norway. We employ the people there, and then they are doing things to manage their own forest, sustainable forest management. We got eco guards. They now go in the forest, their own forest, patrolling it, and you are paid to look at threats. You are paid at the end of the month. You buy your food, you move on, because they are started out proving this rice farming are not taking us anywhere. It just bringing us up and down. But how can we do it to improve on it so that the people themselves in the rural area can be able to put their hand in their pocket and buy? Forests can provide all of this. So as we move on, let us check on it and think that the level can be improved from the bottom. So most of us, we need to take out the farm dresses, the coat suits, and move in the field. Be willing to be employed in the field, stay there, work with the people, teach them the way, and then see that improvement come from there. The honey can come, the cocoa can come, the rice can come, the groundnut can come from the area, and then we can say we are changing the course. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. like 2 minutes, I would like to put my 30 seconds in. I deserve it. Let's get it for free. So, as Blama and Toshi and Michael have all stated, I strongly believe too, as an individual, as someone who has been in this sector for a long time, one of the vibrant ways in which we can ensure forest management and address these prevailing challenges is to focus on the creation of a National Conservation Trust Fund. That National Conservation Trust Fund is not a new idea. It is what our National Forest Reform Law mandates the government of Liberia to do. If we will pursue a medium approach for extracting timber, we must be able to invest in conservation, reforestation, and afforestation activities. The creation of a National Conservation Trust Fund is something that has been in the works for a long time now. The Global Conservation Fund told the government of Liberia that we have $1 million. And that $1 million, we will put it down only if you put another $1 million down. It has been almost 10 years now. Global Conservation Fund has put that $1 billion down, and the government of Liberia, quote me, only contributed $5,000 US. So if we are serious for sustainable forest management, won't we invest more in activities that create a framework to allow us to perpetuate forest restoration and forest conservation and afforestation? The fact that we have the EPA boss here, which one of the institutions is a beneficiary of the Liberia Forest Sector Project, we need to ask ourselves, what can the government do to ensure that this $1 million is matched? It is our responsibility. The next point is ensure that this transition from being beneficiaries to partners. Let us invest in activities that will bring economic return to women and young people in the communities. If forestry will not bring money to a particular person, they will make sure that particular forest will cut it down and find livelihoods. The government of Liberia can make thousands of laws. If we do not address livelihoods in a sustainable and pragmatic way, it's a waste of time. We can boast that Liberia has 43% of Upper Guinea forest ecosystem. Trust me, in the next 50 years, with population explosion, shifting cultivation will eat all. The forest will go, whether we like it or not. And finally, management planning systems. Management planning systems. For us to be able to manage forests, we must develop management planning systems, practicalized management planning systems that are acceptable and appropriate to community folks. Not only putting management plans in place for protected areas and community forests, but most of these forests happen only on the silos, and there are greater landscapes. If we do not have a greater landscape approach for developing management regimes to allow communities to say, okay, you know what, if you want to collect wawa from here, you can only cut this size of tree at this diameter breast height, and communities are themselves able to pursue it. If we cannot do it, we are wasting our time. The final thing is, if FDA, if EPA, if all the other partners are not able to access funding, if they're not able to do their work, if you don't give them logistics and training and make sure young people are attracted to jobs in these sectors, FDA, the old people will follow that place and will become an old folks too. EPA will continuously write stop, do not, but will not be able to enforce anything. We must, as a country, consider investing in these sectors. Thank you so much.